Hi there, Jeff here from the Wetsuit Centre, talking to you today about the Rip Curl Omega series of wetsuits. Since its introduction, the Rip Curl Omega range has become quite broad. So you've got wetsuits for kids, for women and for men, ranging from shorties, summer wetsuits, right the way through to the winter wetsuits as well. Okay, so quite a broad range. Essentially, the actual technical aspects of the suit remain quite similar through the range. We're going to be focusing on the sort of winter end today, or on the steamer suit, so the full suit. In terms of the quality of the neoprene, and a lot of the stitching remains fairly similar through the range, okay? But looking today more at the sort of full wetsuits, you've got the 5.3, you've got the 4.3, and you've got the 3.2 as well, okay? Basically that indicates the thickness of the wetsuit. So 5.3, you've got 5mm on the lower part of the body, and then 3mm around the shoulders and arms where you need more flexibility. That goes the same right the way down to the 3.2, the 2mm around the shoulders and arms, and 3mm on the lower body, this being the kids' wetsuit, okay? So, you've got all those options. We do a separate video which explains what wetsuit you should go for in terms of the water temperature that you're surfing in. But typically a 5.3 is going to be good for UK winter, so December, January, February, March, April. And then a 4.3 is going to be good for sort of spring, sort of April, May sort of time, and then September, October, November sort of time, depending when you're tolerant to the cold. And then the 3mm wetsuits, and then wetsuits like the shorty, you're obviously going to be using in warm water, so UK summer times, or if you're going somewhere where the climate is much more temperate, then you're going to be wearing something like this. And you've also got things like the Omega tops, and you've got things like the short arm and long leg, that kind of thing. Fundamentally, they're using the same sort of neoprene, especially in the upper body, which is a super stretch neoprene in the upper body, and then a free light neoprene, or the less flexible neoprene in the lower body, okay? And then obviously, going down to the free light wetsuit is 100% free light neoprene, so that's more of a bargain basement budget wetsuit with free light. So the Omega comes in just above that with a few improvements on technical features. Primarily, that is the neoprene used in the shoulders and the upper body, and then you also have things like the smooth skin neoprene on the front and on the back, and a few other slight technical differences which we'll mention as we go through the video, which distinguish it between the as a better wetsuit over and above the free light, which is why you're paying a bit more money, okay? Two types of seam, or three types of seam, that are available in the Omega series, okay, that are worth noting, okay? You've got flat lock stitched, you've got glued and blind stitched, and then you've got something called E-stitching as well, okay? Briefly explain the differences between the three, okay? You've got flat lock stitching. What we do is I'll do a bit of a close-up on the flat lock stitch here now for you. Flat lock stitching is essentially where they put two pieces of neoprene together, butted up together, and then they basically just stitch them the whole way through together, and the stitching goes the whole way through the neoprene, okay, punching right the way through the neoprene and binding the two pieces of neoprene together. It's a very robust, easy to manufacture type of stitching, but it does mean the seams are breathable, so they do leak water, okay? Now, that's fine if you're talking about a shorty, or if you're talking about a 3.2 perhaps. It makes the suit cheaper to manufacture and then cheaper to actually sell, so a cheaper retail price, but it does mean that it leaks water, which isn't great for obviously cold water. So they only tend to use that in the 3.2. Moving up into something like the 4.3, or the 5.3, and then even the 3.2, if you're surfing again in cold waters, or you want the option of a glued and blind stitch wetsuit. We'll sort of zoom in there as well. And essentially the glued and blind stitch wetsuits are stitched halfway through from the outside, and then the suit's turned inside out, and then they're welded shut with glue just to create a sealed seam. That means they don't leak in water, and that's the most important thing to have in a winter wetsuit, because you want to basically take on a bit of water. That water will soak into the neoprene, warm to your body temperature, and actually insulate you. But if you're constantly having cold water flushing into the suit, you're not going to be able to keep that heat inside the suit for very long. So it's very important to have sealed seams, which is why they don't offer flat lock in the 5.3 or the 4.3, okay? It's harder to make a glued and blind stitch seam, and so it's more expensive, okay? And the last thing that's worth noting is the E-stitching. Now the E-stitching is a kind of like a hybrid, if you like, between the two types of stitching. Now, e-stitching is not glued and blind stitch, means that the thread does go the whole way through the neoprene, and so it will bleed in water. So again, the e-stitching is only really appropriate in the 3-2 style wetsuits, or in this case, you've got a shorty, because it will bleed in water. But because there's less cotton or less actual stitching through the suit, it's got much more flexibility, okay? So it's kind of a hybrid of the two. And you do get a lot more flex through the seam on this suit. So it's a little bit more expensive than the sort of flat lock stitching, but it's still quite a cheap way to manufacture the stitch. It has a bit more flex than traditional flat lock, so they use it in some suits. So keep an eye out for that. It's not a glued and blind stitch or a sealed seam, okay? Okay, so this is a men's 3-2. Now, we'll talk through some of the sort of features of the actual wetsuit itself from the outside here. You've got 3mm of neoprene in the lower body, again, as we said, and 2mm in the upper body where you need more flexibility. There is a difference between the types of neoprene on the suit. In the lower body, you've got the Freelite, sort of more standard neoprene. In the upper body, I believe this is E5, and the differences in the neoprene are quite marked, and quite substantial. You can see the sort of flexibility in the upper body and the shoulder there. And that's because the neoprene itself is infused with more air cells. So the more air cells it has, the more movement it has through the rubber, the more it insulates you because it traps warm air as it leaves your body. And the lycra over the top of the rubber itself is actually much smoother and much more flexible as well, so softer on the skin, and it feels a lot more flexible on. So there's quite a bit of difference. With this particular suit, they use that in the upper body, okay? And as you go through the range, things like Dawn Patrol, you get more advanced neoprene, such as E6, E7 neoprene now, and that's got a huge amount of flexibility, and it's the whole way through the suit. But to make sure the suit is still cost effective and still marketed at a very reasonable price, Rip Curl only use it in the upper body in the Omega, so you get that super stretch when you need it. Okay, in the lower body you've got like a Freelite neoprene. You can feel the difference between the two. A little bit more coarse, the actual jersey over the top, and a little bit less pliable. But having said that, still a good quality neoprene. With the Omega, which you don't get on the Freelite, you do get a smooth skin panel on the front. Come a bit closer. That smooth skin panel is really good. Non-absorbent material which protects you from the wind. Use that in the front and the back, so the core, where you need to keep your internal organs warm, especially your kidneys, to keep your blood warm and keep you in the water for longer, so you get that smooth skin on the front and the back. One thing that's changed over the last couple of years with the Omega is the shaping of the suit. It kind of almost looks like a chest zip with the sort of dip on the side here. The paneling of the suit is much nicer, much more designed to suit the contours of the body and to offer up less restriction. Bent seams, no seams over the shoulder or under the shoulder, and any seams there are, make sure they're sort of like shaped in a way that they stretch out. Okay, and that's on the front of the suit and on the back of the suit as well. You can see even around the lumbar it's dipped to make sure it doesn't sort of give you any pull on the lower back. Some standard things you get with most suits these days are the Duraflex knee pad. Duraflex knee pad, just a very robust material which will protect the knees, particularly good if you're learning to surf or if you duck dive with your knee, that kind of thing, because that has a tendency to wear through. So that's the material they use there. Moving up into the collar around the neck, you get a single lined collar with the Omega wetsuit. So that's different from some suits. They use a double line collar, which can be quite restrictive around your neck. That's for a reason, but some people prefer the single line collar because it's a lot softer on your neck and less restrictive. So if you don't do well with things sort of being tight around your neck, then this is a good compromise. You've got a back zip on this wetsuit, tried and tested, the standard back zip, and that goes all the way down to the lumbar. Velcro neck, obviously you can adjust that to however you feel comfortable. A little piece of fabric sewn into the zip there, and that's actually so you can fold the neoprene down when you're not using the suit or when you've opened the suit up, so it doesn't attach to the neoprene and cause barbling. But yeah, essentially you've got this long zip down the back. Suit opens up nice and wide, and then you get an idea of what's going on inside of the suit. But it's a basic PK zip, which is a specially made zip which is waterproof and also doesn't corrode with salt. The lanyard, nice and easy to grab when you pull it up. Essentially, that's everything going on the outside of the suit. So what I do, turn the suit inside out, have a little look on the inside and see what's going on. Okay, so here we have the Omega turned inside out. Okay, now you can see it's very similar to the Freelite in terms of the construction of the suit, if you have watched that video. So the fundamental differences between this and the Freelite is the quality of neoprene, okay? You get that super stretch with the Omega on the upper body, which you don't get with the Freelite, which makes a big difference in terms of flex and movement. But on the inside of the suit, it's quite similar. You've got the glued and blind stitching the whole way through. One thing that is slightly different with this suit and the Freelite, you do get more of the internal taping, okay? Now that internal taping, as you move through the range, you get more and more of that because it's very good at welding and securing the seams and making them waterproof. It's also good at stopping the seam sort of degrading or breaking down over time or pulling apart because it reinforces the seam. So what they do on the Omega, they take that in the critical areas. So you've got like under the arms, always around the crotch where you're sitting on surfboards these days. And they do tend to pull and stretch and tear there, so that's taped around the seams there. So essentially that's everything really going on inside the suit. One thing's worth mentioning, you've got a cool little key pocket on the back zip there. Good if you don't have an electronic key. So if I grab something like the ladies 3-2 here, very similarly constructed. This is the E-stitched suit. And again, it's all just about the super stretch, quality neoprene on the upper body, having the smooth king panel, slightly less seams on the suit as well. So it's just a slight upgrade above the Freelite, but it doesn't offer things like thermal lining, liquid taping, and all that kind of thing, which you then need to move into the Dawn Patrol series to get. But for the money that you pay, the Omega, in whatever form you choose to go for, even if it's like just the sort of shorty here, you've got a kid's shorty here. You've got a few options in that range in terms of flat lock or glued and blind stitching, but it basically covers a suit for everyone. So when you're having a look through, just keep an eye out for the seam technology and the thickness of the wetsuit, and really that's where you need to get it right. But essentially, the suit itself is just about having the good quality neoprene in the upper body, the variations on the seams, minimal paneling on the suit, and having a bit of smooth skin as well over and above really cheaper shorties is what the Omega is all about. But at the end of the day, it's still a budget wetsuit. Okay, so it's still for people that don't want to spend too much money but want to have a decent quality suit. It's a great option, and the wetsuit tops are fantastic because they're all super stretch neoprene. But in terms of a winter wetsuit, it works great and one of our top sellers every year. So definitely a recommendation and great value for money at the price.